Okay, guys, earlier I was talking about some of the physics of sailing in real basic terms. I'm not going to use anything really technical. But what I did want to point out was I've got this covering my boat now. What you'll see here is that this is actually enough of a sail to cover the entire boat. This is going to be my sail, okay? So it's going to be one sail. Now, I have a lot of options, believe it or not, as to how I set that up. I could run my mast up the middle, have it tethered to the mast. That might seem like the way to go to some people. I'm not doing that. I've got this here. This is a standard type, triangular type sail. Now, what I will tell you about this is these only cover a very small portion of the air. Now, I happen to have a little fan here, and you can see it catches a little bit of wind, and it's okay. Now, I have this one, and if I can pick that one up, and you'll see that as I put the fan on it, it has a lot more surface area. I mean, look at the surface area here. Now, I do have a little light fan coming from the backside, but it's just so I can feel in my hand the amount of breeze that it's catching, and right now it's really not that much. And the reason is it's kind of spread apart pretty tight. But if I relax it a little bit, all of a sudden it started moving back towards me. I don't know if you guys saw that. It actually got closer to the camera there, because now it wants to move. So here's a problem with most traditional sails that people make when they think about an RC sailboat. They think the sail is just some straight piece of cloth. And what I will tell you is a good sail, when you look at it, really isn't just one simple, I cut a piece of cloth out and I stuck it on a rig. No. What it is what you need certain edges to be tight. Okay? Now here's the problem. I've got a little frame on this just so you can see what I'm talking about. Now if I take this and I stretch it tightly, you'll see that it's not flapping. Believe it or not, in the wind, that's a good thing. You don't want the sail to just flutter and flap. Down below this edge, you don't want that. You don't want it lufting. You just want it tight, like that, on the bottom edge. But on the inside, you want this. See this here? This is, I pushed the camera right into it just to show, like, there's a fair bit of lufting that's capable here. You see that? It is not, strictly speaking, going to be straight. It'll be basically tight at the bottom, like that, so it doesn't do any lufting. But then the rest of the structure will actually be able to move. Now, if I take this triangular rig, just to show you, this is the actual proper sail shape I'm about to show you, and I found it kind of a neat way to do it here. Okay, so if I can do this right, it'll show you guys perfectly the shape that the sail has to be and why it has to be that way. Okay, so now down at the bottom, I've got it fairly tight, but this material is so tight now that if I move, it really doesn't have any give. I mean, if I put it even tighter to the frame, it gets even less give. The lesson there is, okay, you need to have your sails tight, but only to such a degree, only to a certain point. Now, if we move this just right, you can start to see that it'll have a little more play and give, but at the same time, these are the same distance out. So the bottom edge is tight. You also want to have this front edge tight and the back edge tight. But in between, you need it to luft. You need it to have a sag. Now, if it's just a straight piece of cloth, that's really, really hard to accomplish. And sailors have struggled with this stuff for thousands of years because in the end, there's a bunch of ways to do this. I could make a little set of folds here, like a little set of stitches. In fact, in certain areas, you can stitch the sail so that it kind of pinches a little bit and creates little air pockets. That's one way to do it. I don't really like doing it that way. This is another method where I have basically a rigid frame. This is like a Chinese junk type sail. It actually has a rigid frame. If I can show you the carbon fiber rods there. It actually has a complete rigid frame like a kite. Now, the reason I'm going to do my sail like this is because when I close it, it closes up like a fan and opens like a fan. So this will actually be on the boat like this, if you guys can see that. Okay, and it'll have sway out like this and out like this. And this is actually going to be my sail, guys. I've cut my sail material. I haven't sewed it on to the frame I'm going to use yet. The problem is, you might think you need a middle spar here. You really don't. And if I take this middle spar out of the picture, it'll still do the exact same thing, but it has its lufting room in the middle. So that's actually going to be my sail. It'll look pretty much like this. I did this as a quick mock-up, and I was experimenting. I'm still experimenting, actually. I may actually do it exactly like this, because I'm going to experiment with both. And right now, I put that in front of the fan, guys, and it actually does. I can feel it on my hand that it's producing a little bit of wind. I can actually feel it pushing. Now, because I know I figured out, you can see there, it's what they call lufting on the edge. That outer edge and that outer edge need to be tight. That outer edge needs to be tight. And this outer edge needs to be tight. So all those things considered, the size, though, is perfect. If you can get an impression of the size of this sail, it's perfect for this boat. Now, I've been debating whether to do 2 sails or a single sail, but I am going to make it a single sail, and I've just decided to do the sail double-sized and do it Chinese junk style. And the reason I'm going to do it like this is because as an RC boat, it'll be a lot easier to keep track of the sail and to tack and all that stuff if I only have one sail to worry about. If I have 2 sails, I almost need to have them separately set up on separate servos so that I can run them each individually. Doing them at the same time does take away from some of your options when handling the boat. But I could do that too. Originally, I was going to use that triangle sail, but this is all a triangle sail is, guys. I have another one here yet again to show you, because I actually made a couple of them beforehand and tested them and didn't find that any of them did a very good job. And the reason is, triangular sails are good, but a true Bermuda style sail, if you look at it, isn't a true triangle, guys. I kind of cut this out of an umbrella, and the sections were triangled anyway and turned out to be exactly the size I wanted my mast to be in terms of the height, and the length across the bottom was pretty close. So I just decided I would use it and see if it would work. It does technically, it will produce a little lift if I give it enough sag in the middle. It'll catch the wind, and there are traditional triangle sails that work just like that, and they're okay. But if that's the case, this is better. This is miles better, guys, because this is literally twice the area, but it's in a different shape. It's not set up like this on the mast. It's set up like this out behind the boat, guys, pretty much. And as it turns, it takes on huge angles. And I mean, these types of sails are the way I have the frame made. It'll take on really nice sets of angles, come way out to the side of the boat, or go way out the other side. Now, the other thing is, this is what I talked about the boom overhang earlier, because the boom is going to overhang big time, and I'm not even sure exactly how I'm going to mount this. Now, traditionally, this would be pretty much straight to the mast, so it would look pretty much like that at its COE, which is huge. And I mean, I'm going to kick this boat forward a little more because I can't actually put it in the position that the math says it should be. Okay, so this is about right. So for proportions, this is pretty big. I mean, I can't fit it all in the screen, guys. This is like a quarter of a really big umbrella is basically what this is. And it looks good, and it will function. And when it's on the boat, like if you could see what I'm seeing right now, it's gorgeous. I want to see if I can zoom out a little bit. No, I can't. That's it. So the trick is, each of these sections, if you look, is actually the same length as the boat. So it's also the same width as the boat. It's actually wider than the boat. And in a sail, traditionally, that's like a minimum size for a sail, is for the sail to be at least the size of the boat. It's usually bigger. And in my case, I don't want to make it taller. Taller means I have real problems because, as I pointed out in the first video, okay, it floats. But as I pointed out in the second video, it needs to do more than just float, you guys. It needs to be able to handle in the wind. It needs to be able to not tip over. Not having a huge mast. This type of sail does not require any bigger a mast than the sail I was going to install, but it'll make more than double the amount of thrust. Anyway, that covers the sail part of it. I just wanted to do a brief little discussion on the sails and why I'm picking one over the other. In addition, I have taken out all these bits, as you can see. So this is moving along. And lately I've just been working on actually getting the sails done. This is the big thing. Because now that I know where the mast is going to be located, I did some figuring on what I'm going to do for the mast. And I actually figured out what I'm going to do. I have a good solid shovel handle that's about this big around. Well, my mast is about the size of my finger. So it'll give me a good collet that I'm going to cut it into sections, then hole it out, and then put that here, and then put my mast in it, and then mount it thoroughly, because that'll help me to mount it. Then on top of that, I'll use the little metal grommet that I have, and it'll fit over top of that, and I'll lock that down and nail that down. So it'll look proper. It should actually look pretty cool, but that won't be the part that you see. It should look very much like a boat, because eventually this is meant to be an open type boat. This is, you put a motor on, you put a handle here for the lever. I was joking in the other video about this being a mast hole. It's actually for a fakie rudder. But in the end, this is going to come off. This will stay, no doubt, because what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cover the boat after I've added it up. It should be about this tall when I'm finished. So I'm looking to add about that much distance to it, which is 2 inches. And that will give me a much better lean angle, and you'll see, because that'll be 2 inches of increasing thickness foam. So anyway, that's it for now, and Keith out. This is the design stage, and there's a lot to consider in the design stage, guys. So I'm going to cover it step by step, the rigging, the whole ball of wax. And right now I'm in the planning stages, and I know what I want. I have a vision in my mind of what I want to build, and believe it or not, what I want to build is a Chinese junk pirate ship. That's what I'm building, guys, a Chinese junk pirate ship. Anyway, Keith out.